In other words, you've been at the Career Center today. What can we do in career preparation that would cause you to be able to accomplish your mission, just as you heard what our mission was?
Can you step up to the mic and make sure the green light is on?
It's a very good question, and we were very impressed with the Career Center today, I'll be honest. It was, you look at it at paper, you look at it on the website, but to actually get the tour and actually see everything that's involved in there. As an employer, I think there's many opportunities that presented itself. We're on the sanitation side of the business, but I think there's just a lot of skill sets and an opportunity for us to, partner and understand better what we can maybe bring to the table as well.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Anything else?
That's it. Let me take a picture.
Hold on. First, of course, we'd like to thank you for the generous donation and investing into our community as well and our young people. So thank you for joining in and becoming an at-large partner with our district. Thank you. And now we have Emily Frederick, I believe, will come take a photo.
We got some really lovely photos from the Career Center today too, so we'll make sure to keep that part of it. I'm gonna have you stand right in front of the board, actually. That looks great.
Right in the middle.
Great, thank you. Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 6 on our agenda. Throughout the 23-24 school year, we have the opportunity to hear from some of our school buildings and the amazing things that they're doing in their buildings. So each administrator from the school were provided a list of school board meetings and were asked to sign up for a present date. Tonight we have Pointer Elementary School, Administrator Jen Willen, and lead teacher Jill Barta will tell us a little bit about what's going on at Pointer.
Good, the green light's still on. I don't have to mess with that. We do have some handouts. Would it be okay if I handed those out? Thank you, Pam. So there's a lot of topics that we could cover, but in our current state of education and safety, we decided on two things that we really wanted to highlight for our school. The first one, we wanted to talk about our safety and how things happen at Pointer. And then the second part, Mrs. Barta is going to share about how we are working to improve our ISASP scores with our Bubble Up program. So going over the safety will be the first part. Pointer has, of course, in Evansdale. We reside in Evansdale. And we continuously get feedback from Dan Huff, who is over all of our safety chairs, that Pointer has risen to the top as one of the safe buildings in the district. And I firmly believe that that's because we have a strong safety chair, Sarah Bishop, but also because we hold tight to all of our trainings and our drills and are very stringent in our schedule that we follow. We pre-schedule all of our drills at the beginning of the school year, and we stick to it. A lot of schools do the same thing. I'm sure you'll hear others talk about how they do that too, but we're very adamant that we follow every single one of those procedures that are laid out. We do our annual run hide drills. We have our classroom doors that remain locked. And Dan actually called me recently about this because after the shooting in Perry, There's a lot of conversation going on around how easy it could be for someone to get into a classroom that doesn't have locked doors, and he remembered that we do lock all of our doors. So our teachers have their keys to their room, but even when they're in there teaching, the doors remain locked. And that's just an added safety precaution so that if someone was to enter the building with some type of weapon, they would have a harder time accessing the classroom and the students in the room. I know that there have been some of the shooters who have said if a door is locked, they'd move on to the next one, trying to find an open door. We practiced our evacuation drills, and we actually had that experience this year. We had a gas leak, and over on the right-hand side is some of our events where we had to put our procedures in place. While I was in a PLC meeting with my 5th grade teachers, we had several reports of gas smells throughout the building. So I initiated the protocols and called my boss to make sure that we were doing the right thing. And we evacuated to our alternate site, which is Bunger Middle School, right down the street. We get to Bunger. They also have gas smell. So we had to do a double evacuation. And I don't think that that's ever been done before. So we all evacuated to our tiny little church, Prince of Peace, in Evansdale. The students did an outstanding job walking that distance, walking across the roads. The police did a nice job of blocking traffic. The picture in the bottom left-hand corner there is some of my 5th grade students who were holding the hands of my preschool students as they walked the distance. It's a long ways in the cold, and they're scared. They don't know everything that's going on, but they just know that they have to move. So we signed up our kids, got them grouped up together. They did a wonderful job. We moved our students, pre-K through 5, into the sanctuary area. And then the 6th, 7th, and 8th graders from Bunger went into the common area of the church where they do a lot of meal serving and such. And then we started the reunification process with families once the decision had been made that we would be releasing for the rest of the day. It was very efficient. We had parents come up. We had a station already set up where the computers were set up with our secretaries, and they were able to confirm who was there to pick up the child. And then we would radio and get the students from the sanctuary and bring them up, make sure they knew who they were, and then they were able to exit with their families. And I think by the end of the day, we only had one student, and she was wonderful. She ended up, mom couldn't get off of work in time, and she did a great job. Some other things that have happened where we've had to have our safety protocols in place. Last year, not this school year, in September, we had a gentleman that was very upset with a driver, didn't have any students at the school, but he pulled over and some kids reported to us that he said he had a gun and he was going to be shooting someone. So we immediately pulled all of our kids in for a lockdown, contacted the police. They confirmed who the guy was, found out that it was not a gun, that the man was very disgruntled and had some mental health illnesses, and made it very clear to him that he was no longer allowed on any of our properties. But it helped to have that in place. When we knew we had the all clear, we were able to proceed with our day. That same year, not too many days later, we had the FBI raid an apartment home across the street at 8:15, which is when our students start to come to school. So once we saw the lot of police traffic in the area, we made the decision that we were just going to bring all kids inside so that we could minimize their fear of seeing what was going on. Some of them were interested, but we wanted to protect them from anything that could potentially happen. This year, I talked about the gas leak, and then we also had our students are very good about notifying us. You know, we tell them all the time, if you see something, say something. Student says, there's a student who has a gun in his backpack. Okay, we follow our procedures, we lock down, we go and investigate. Ended up being a Nerf gun that he had left from a sleepover at his dad's house. But the fact that that child said something and we were able to investigate helps us show that we are safe. And And then recently here, we had a gentleman who was seen on our property at dismissal time taking pictures of some of our kids. Very odd situation. Staff member immediately reported it to Mrs. Barta, and Mrs. Barta was able to go over and talk to the gentleman. Come to find out, he's the father of our safety patrol child that was doing their job, and he just wanted a picture. But without having those quick reflexes and going in and doing those investigations, we wouldn't have known that. And we've had parents tell us how safe they feel with having their children at our school. So I just wanted to highlight those few things, and now I will did you have any questions about safety before I let Mrs. Barta come on? Okay.
Hello. So I'm the lead teacher at Pointer, and I've been there since the beginning, so like 2007. So last year we put in place a program we call Bubble Up. And so what it was is we looked at student data from ISASP and then determined students that would benefit from additional instruction outside of the school day. And so our coaches, math coach, literacy coach, counselor, Mrs. Willen, and myself looked at that, looked to see, okay, this is what the students would benefit from, looked into what domains that would be beneficial when they're taking the assessment, where like some questions are more intense than others, there's more questions on one area than there are on others. And then we put in place where the kids came for 8 weeks, 4 times during the week, from 8 to 8:25, to get additional instruction from our teachers. We had teachers who came in the morning to do that instruction, small group. They focused in on what the kids needed. It wasn't just random lessons that they pulled out from somewhere. They really honed in on that. And so you can, Mrs. Willen, Jen handed out a sheet there with kind of what the scores were looking like, and we saw significant improvement on there. And although not every student was proficient, if you see on the very right-hand side, those numbers are the growth that the student had from the previous year on ISASP. So you can see we were very impressed with what happened with the kids, the effort they put in, and then the time the teachers put in for that. And so we felt like part of it was because it was in the morning and they were fresh, where years ago it was after school and we're all kind of, teachers and kids are a little, so we think part of it was because it was in the morning. Now, we did have parents drop the kids off, so they were on board with it, make sure the kids got there for that additional instruction. This year, we're doing 2 sessions. So the kids have been in a session since the December 4th, and then it ends on the 26th of January. And then we have a week off where we'll reassess and look at the student data from Bridges assessments, from Common Lit assessments, and see if we need to have the students continue, or maybe we're looking at some students who would benefit and then add, get them on board, and then just, reach more students if possible. And so right now we have 21 kids who come consistently. We do have some that are kind of here and there, but 21 that consistently come 4 days a week from 8 to 8:25. This year we added 3rd grade. So last year was just 4th and 5th grade, but we looked and thought 3rd graders needed that too. And then we used Bridges assessments and Common Lit assessments to make that determination. Otherwise, 4th and 5th grade we used ISASP. So, any questions?
What were those times again?
8 to 8:25.
Okay,
So.
thank you.
So you're showing your score increases here. How does that, if you were to track where they were at, pre-COVID, where our learning's at, have we recovered based on this back to where we should have been, or are we still, you feel like behind where we projections?
I don't have any hard numbers, but so the kids that were in kindergarten, just social emotional, that group of kids just really struggle socially. And then, let's see, when they were in, Yeah, in second grade, we looked into like their sight words. That was pretty low, so we did a intensive intervention on that. So we're
Still
it's starting to go,
recovering
but it's, you know,
Yeah.
there's not like, we don't have exact hard numbers, but we know that there's definitely some additional small groups during the day that the teachers are doing during like reading workshop and math workshop.
So this was extra instructional time at the beginning of the day, right?
Yep.
And how many teachers participated in that? I mean, just
Yep,
a
we had
round number.
9
Okay.
teachers, or sorry, 7 teachers this year.
And were there funds for that, or did they do
Yes.
that as okay, good.
Yeah.
I'm so
Yep.
glad that they're being compensated
Yes,
for
they're
their
being
time.
compensated. And we think part of the reason that we had teachers on board is they do get compensated for some planning time. So they get a little bit of that, I think, because they already have a lot going on to begin with. So, and I really do think that that's part of the success is because they're looking, like we had third grade teachers that were teaching fourth grade. So they needed a moment to look at what was it that they needed to do at the fourth grade level. So, and then they had donuts and coffee every Friday.
Money well spent all around.
Yes.
So, any other questions?
Any other questions?
No, but thank you for your efforts.
Yeah, no,
I just want to
thank you.
speak
Yeah.
quickly on the double evacuation real
Yes.
quick. I told the board that day right after, or while it was going on, even when it ended, like, such a great job. If you've ever tried to, I don't know how many 400 students
Roughly.
in that sanctuary.
Yes.
Was quite the sight, I gotta say, to have 400 kids packed in there, but they were doing great. Your staff was amazing. It could have been a lot worse than what you guys, so I just bravo to you guys for the work there with that. So I just want to make sure I threw that out there, the group.
And as a parent, I appreciate the efforts in your safety plan and how detailed it is, and all the things you do. So keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And now we'll have Miss Sunny Hart, who's the principal at Orange Elementary School, for item 7. And her team.
I did bring some friends with me, you guys. And we have some other Orange staff here, and they told me they would come as long as I didn't pitch them the mic. Sometimes I've been known to hand the mic off to someone else. I said, okay, I won't do it this time, guys. But I do have some of the most important people here, our students, so I'm just gonna give you a little introduction of what we're sharing with you all today, and then I'm gonna pitch it to this crew to give you a little bit more of the finer details. So, earlier this year, well, first of all, as you all may know, Orange Elementary has leaned into the efforts of Leader and Me for quite some time. They were already identified as a lighthouse school when I arrived as a principal, which seems weird to me, but I'm on year number 8 this year at Orange Elementary. And we really lean into all of the paradigms, the practices, the frameworks, the systems, what Leader and Me has to offer. It's not like a program to us, it's just our way of business at Orange. And part of our way of business is goal setting. Big thing is goal setting. This year in October, I too have a little document for y'all. In October, we were awarded, I think there should be enough for each one of them. Over there. We were awarded from the Leader and Me company, something called the Lighthouse Academic Honor Roll. This is something that's newer to the Leader and Me company, that we've never received this award before. So we are a lighthouse school, and there's a certain set of criteria that we have to uphold in the world of Leader and Me in order to receive lighthouse status, and then to maintain that status every 2 years. There is a review of the data that goes along with that in order for us to maintain that status. This award is on top of that, and it really leans into the academic prong of the Leader and Me. So there's 3 prongs in Leader and Me. There's the academic lane, there's the culture lane, and then there's a leadership lane. So they use, if you'll read, this is a letter that we received in October from them, and if you read through this, they use something called schooldigger.com for any school that they, which is worldwide, that is in the system for Leader in Me to decide the criteria of academics. So I've not leaned a lot into this schooldigger.com because we've got so much data here that we lean into, but this is their criteria, and so it looks like, according to this, that we have grown quite a bit, according to this, and it landed us on this list and this honor, and so we got a little special thing to put on our flag at school, and I don't like to take credit for stuff like that because it's not really, I'm not the one sitting in the classroom doing all the things. It's these guys right here that are doing all the efforts in the classrooms. And on the back of this, they're gonna kind of talk to you about some systems that we have in place at Orange that just allow us to really dig into our goals. And we use something called a leadership binder, and we have a whole system where we collect all the goals that we hit, and we have several layers of goals, and we think that because we really pay attention to all that we set goals, we are consistent in our growth and goals, that it landed us with this award this year. So we feel very honored that this crossed our paths this year. I'm gonna let these guys each have a little bit of a leadership binder that they have to share with you guys. The pictures that you're seeing on the back of this award, this is a system we have in place, and that like lighthouse looking thing, that it is a little, needs some work this summer probably because this is like year 3 on it and it's starting to kind of bulge a little bit, but that's because we collect so many goals, you guys. It's just starting to like overflow. There's several different kind of balls. I come around once a month with the wig catcher, and the wigs are wildly important goals, and catch them. I catch all by yourself goals, we catch class-wide average goals, we collect grade level goals, and we all dump them in there, and then the one picture of it by himself, those tubs next to it, those are tubs that were overflow, and we had to dump them out of Lighthouse and put them in there. So where you see, you could see the picture with our mascot in the background and a student that's throwing one in there. It is kind of a big deal. And one thing that I've learned over the years now, every time I'm in the hallway, when kids are catching me in the hallway, they're telling me how close they are to a goal. It's like their connection to me. Oh, Miss Hart, I'm this far away from my ST Math goal. Like, I know the percentages all the time because they're constantly telling me when I see them in the hallway. But it goes beyond just ST Math. It goes into all kinds of other things that they do. So I'm going to let these guys introduce themselves along with Mrs. Grattan. These are 2 of our 5th graders at Orange, and Mrs. Grattan is one of our 5th grade teachers at Orange.
Hi, my name's Arena, and I'll be sharing my common lit goals and my setting. So the start of the first common that I took, I got 35%, and I struggled on that, and I wanted to get better at common lits. So I started reading at home and learning to try to find my text evidence and trying to self-talk and slow down. So I've been starting, I've gotten higher. I've gotten 95, 75, and 80. Those are my last 3 I've took, and I've grown a lot.
Hi, my name is Jade, and I'm here to talk about my my growth on my like reading. So I do Battle of the Books, and for that you have to read like a lot, and I've been really working on trying to read more so I'm not as stressed as I usually am. So I set a goal to like read all the books, and I've been doing very good. Also, in Mrs. Grattan's class, we have a goal to read 40 books in I think like the whole year, and that also helps me so I can also achieve my Battle of the Books goal. So I set a goal to finish all my books, and I think I'm 10 books through, so I'm halfway through this year. So I set a goal to read more, and I did. So.
How you make your goals every month? No? Okay. Well, I guess I'll share. Can I see yours for a little bit? So each month, they, in their leadership binders, they have a personal goal, a math goal, and a reading goal. And so they set a new one every month, and they get a sheet that looks like this. And the teachers in our building, we also have these as well. But the kids, they write their wildly important goal, and then they also track it throughout the month. So you see like the smiley faces and the frowny faces, more smiley faces than frownies. But, and then they have their lead measures also, though those are the things that they can control themselves. So they're tracking that every day. Do you guys have, I would say like, one thing we have learned, this has been a process, like we did not land in a place where we understood how to really cascade a goal all the way down from a school-wide goal to a grade level to all the way down to the individual, right? And finding the right measures and finding the right things to figure out how to make that accessible where the kids understand, all the way up to like the stuff that we're talking about in the circles in the spots that we sit in as administrators and the teachers. And once you do, like it's just fun to watch how they understand what it is. And one big part, and I attribute this to some of the practices that we've learned through Leader and Me, is understanding the difference of those outcome goals versus consistency goals. Like when they talk about their lead measures and on that map, we're really tracking our habits, not what the outcome is. Because if we really lean into our great habits and we just get consistent with our habits, the outcome is going to come. And I think that they are kind of starting to learn that as kids by us just helping them understand as we understand better as the adults doing it. If we just keep tracking good habits, good outcomes come with those. So.
To Director Lyle's point, Director Lyle Schmidt's point earlier about what people are looking for in employable people, in the law firm that I work in, my boss is always looking for people that can set measurable goals for themselves. So it is incredible work you're doing to prepare these students for the work world and prepare them to be leaders and go-getters, because that is the kind of stuff that employers are looking for.
Mm-hmm. I appreciate that. Thank you.
I don't know what your mobility is, but most schools it's significant. So seems like you have a pretty planned out, structured process. So how easy is it to integrate new students coming in and get them up to speed on the process?
To your first question, we aren't a high mobility school. We have several kids that will land in pre-K or kindergarten and they'll stay with us all the way till 6th grade or 5th grade. So we have a lot of that. However, we do have kids that still show up in the middle of the year. And Dakota, could you speak to how you get them accustomed to your system?
Yeah, so we have like some like when we are making our.
Can you step up to the mic quick, please?
When we are making our leadership binders at the beginning of the year, I'll do a couple of them as examples too and let those kind of float around the room. But then I'll also collect those again. That way they're ready to go if we have new students. So then they just grab a sheet, write it with us, and we do that very regularly so that even a kid could help another kid in understanding it. So.
Okay, thank you.
I would just like to congratulate the fact that the co-communication aspect from the top all the way down to where the kids are, for them to be able to understand. There's a great culture that I think that's there in Orange, and I'm here to say that that is something that when we're talking about those build skills, being able to build, being able to, here goes my goal and those kind of things. I just think that's great. Each of your students, I know some are with it, but you have the culture going, so I think that's great. So congratulate to all the students and congratulate to the teachers.
Absolutely. I
And
think
your staff.
to speak to your point, like when she talked about the staff are included in some of these practices, they have their leadership binders. I think the power, we've talked about this a lot, is when they see that we we're setting goals too. We struggle and fall down sometimes too. We sometimes don't read the books that she was just talking about in one of her things. I didn't hit my goal. I said I would read this many books by the end of 2023. Now I got to tell the kids I didn't hit my goal. So like just being vulnerable and just authentic in front of the kids, because we're just all humans trying to figure out this big world, right? And we're trying to create the habits to get us accustomed. And I think because we don't have a high mobility rate, and I know you can't control that in many of our schools, that's not a control factor, but kids, these guys right here can help new kids come in, get accustomed to this is just how we do things, and they're right there next to them saying like, oh, remember this is what your leadership binder is, get it, it's over here, and this is what we do with that. So I think that is just something that we are just lucky and blessed at Orange, that's just how that kind of rolls out.
But putting that leadership into practice at that age is awesome.
Thank you. Awesome. Anything else? Thank you.
Anything else? Well, thank you for coming to share. Anybody that knows and comes to our board meetings often know that this is always the best part. When we get to hear from our student, nothing against the administration and the faculty and staff, but when we get to see and hear from our students that are doing amazing things in the Waterloo Community Schools, that's what makes us smile. It's not always sitting up here,
We put some save the
but
dates on that that thing for you, so if you want to come and see more kids in action, you pop over anytime on one of those dates, and we'll get you in there, and then you could see more kids doing their thing.
yes, we'll do.
Director Mills needed to leave, but she said, can you double check and find out what time on January 25th?
Right away in the morning I have a separate invitation.
Oh, wow.
7:45.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, we'll give you the other invites for that. That's just us saying like, hey, we appreciate you. We appreciate the decisions that you make for us. Here's a little moment if you want to pop in and have some pastries with us, pop on in over at Orange.
Will do. Thank
Okay.
you. Oh, thank you. Yeah. And you all did an amazing job as well speaking, so we thank you for coming. Okay, that was wonderful. Amazing. We appreciate that. Next on our agenda, item 8, the Citro Rivers AEA update, and I'll turn that over to Dr. Jared Smith for a little bit of explanation on that.
Okay, so got Dana and Brenna joining us here. I believe each year they come in and give us, every 5 years, okay, every 5 years they come in and give us updates. Here we got Brian as well. They're going to give us an update on the services they provide our school district. As you can see, all the services that they provide across all the central AEA. What makes this especially timely in my mind is that we just heard the recent proposed legislation at the state level, and actually as a board during our work session we had a chance to talk about some of that. So this is very timely for our board and for the community and for people watching at home to have a chance to hear about all of the services that the AEA provides the Waterloo schools. So, and I also know there's a few of their board members with us as well. So we'll be excited to hear from them as well. So.
Wonderful. Thanks, Dr. Smith. Good evening. My name is Brenna Huber, and I've had the pleasure of working with Waterloo Community School Districts for 7 years now. I started out as a school psychologist here in the district and became the assistant regional administrator and now the regional administrator with Central Rivers AEA. I'm here tonight with my counterpart, Dana Harskamp, who has also been serving the Waterloo Community School District for about 3 years now as a school improvement consultant, as well as the assistant regional administrator. Also joining us tonight are Brian Burton and Dennis Cron. They serve as representatives on our AEA board in support of Waterloo. And then we also have, I'm just going to have you guys wave, Jen Segrest and Amy Knupp, who are executive directors of educational and special education services. So we're thrilled to be with you here tonight, like Dr. Smith said, to speak to the partnership that we have as Central Rivers AEA with Waterloo Community Schools. This is part of our 5-year cycle visit, but we would probably be remiss to not speak about the legislation that's currently happening with Central Rivers AEA and the AEAs across the state. So we'll likely also talk about House Study Bill 542 and the potential implications that that bill may have on your district. We're having some connectivity issues, so I should have talked slower. Bring in the big guns, as we knew.
That's it, but it's the input.
I can talk for a few minutes.
Yeah, thanks, Brian.
So while they're waiting, I'll just say hi. Thanks for having us back again. Dennis and I represent you. We are your representatives on the AEA board. We come every 2 or 3 years, and you say you want us to represent you, so we go back and apply. And so we are, our board members are all representatives of the school boards that appoint us. So I think I'm in my third or fourth time that I've been able to represent you. And Dennis, you're in I think you're third also. So I think I'm in my 13th or 14th year of representing you. I thought it would be 2 years, and I'm still here. So thank you for having us and allowing us to be your representative on the AEA board.
Is there? We did. We emailed it to you. Did you? Yes. Yep. So is that easier to? Yep. We can do that.
Let's do that. Now I have to think of what I need to do.
So as we got a few minutes here, while we're setting up, I informed the board, and I can inform the community as well here, just the recent proposed legislation that came out. We've actually got a meeting tomorrow with Waterloo Schools leadership and AA leadership to kind of talk through some options to kind of interpret the legislation, to better understand the services that are provided. So tonight will be a great start. Tomorrow we're going to spend, I think, about 90 minutes together digging deeper into the services that Central Rivers provides the Waterloo schools. There's a lot of services, as you're going to hear about, that I think people don't realize that we receive through the AEA. So it's going to be a good chance for us to understand. I believe when we looked at the numbers, there's 58 FTE on the special ed side.
We'll get into that.
You'll get into it. Okay, I don't want to steal your thunder.
55.4.
Okay, don't want to steal your thunder here. I'm just trying to kill a little time here. But we are looking forward to that conversation tomorrow where we've got their leadership in the room, our leadership in the room.
While we're waiting, our first couple talking points are around the handouts that you guys received too. So we could maybe just start talking about the handouts. So before we got into the specific examples of the partnership that Central Rivers has with Waterloo, we wanted to share with you or give you a more broad overview of the services that we provide to all districts in our agency. So in front of you is the handout for your reference. What you will see are all the services available to your district. As an agency, our success hinges significantly on building trusting relationships with our LEA partners. So we often talk about our relationship with districts as a dance, meaning in order for us to provide quality services, we need to be invited to the dance. We feel very fortunate to have solid dance partners in Waterloo who we collaborate with at very high levels. On the right-hand side of the document that you see, This demonstrates the proposed cuts that House Study Bill 542 is proposing in its original version. All of the services that you see highlighted on the right-hand side of this graphic will no longer be available if the bill passes. There is a revision to the original bill, but the specific changes have not yet been made available. Another thing to note is that all the special education services, if the bill were to pass, would be overseen by the Department of Education. And the revisions for the bill that haven't yet come out yet may provide the opportunity for districts to continue using those educational services, but that all requests will have to first be approved by the Department of Ed. So when you think about Waterloo schools and having some ownership or local control of the services they provide, the passing of this bill would make sure that all decisions would have to be approved by the Department of Education. Districts will also have the option to continue using AEA services, or, again, with the oversight from the DE, they can opt out and provide services in-house. As the bill states, the districts will have to make this decision, which is a 2-year commitment, by April 30th of this year. So if the bill were to pass, districts have to decide what they want to do by April 30th. It's a pretty tight turnaround.
While you're still getting ready, quick question. When will we know if the bill passes or not?
That is a great question. So we are very hopeful that with the advocacy that's happened over the last couple of weeks, that they will move through the legislative process as it's intended and not push the bill through at a further rate, a faster rate. But we do not have we have an end date where legislation ends, right? March 17th or 20th? It could take the whole session. So truly it could happen any time from now till the end of our legislative session.
Do you know with the new amendment to re-include educational services, how many of these things in the red would be included in that?
So the educational services, technology services, and media services are kind of the other components, the services besides special education. So you can see some of the obvious ones of media services are like the book sets, those kind of things. Those will not be services that we provide, but some of our professional development, coaching supports, content-specific supports, those would be things that could continue with approval from the DE.
Thank you.
Yep. Do we have it?
We have it.
Let's give a round of applause for Pam.
Good job, Pam.
Got this.
All right.
Yep.
All right, so we're gonna skip ahead a few slides because Brenna had a chance to share some of those already. But on this slide, we wanted to give you an opportunity to see the faces of our Central River staff who support Waterloo in the area of special education. We have 109 phenomenal staff who serve the students, families, and educators in the Waterloo Community Schools, 96 who serve in the area of special education. Our 25 team reps that you see here consist of school psychologists, school social workers, and special education consultants. They work in your 19 buildings every single day and are heavily embedded into the school community and daily operations of your building. Their primary job is to conduct evaluations in order to identify students for special education. They also attend special education PLCs, engage in and at times lead professional learning, provide regular coaching and collaboration supports, co-develop and attend IEPs, play a critical role in the solutions and triad teams, and many are even a part of the building leadership teams. Our 25 speech and language pathologists also serve in your 19 Waterloo buildings each and every single day. and they average between 50 and 60 students on their rosters. This slide represents all of our other related service providers. It includes our occupational therapists, our physical therapists, our teachers of the deaf and hard of hearing, our audiologists, and our work experience coordinators. These individuals are highly trained professionals, many of them doctors in their field. They work directly with students to provide services as written in their IEPs. Our early access and early childhood staff play vital roles in supporting the development needs of young children, providing early intervention services to children birth through 5. These educators provide services in homes, as well as community daycares and preschools. They are responsible for the identification of students with special needs for 3 to 5-year-olds. To date, we have had over 100 referrals this year, 5 to 6 referrals per week in the area in Waterloo. Our educators serve around 25 different locations across the city of Waterloo, including all district and community partner programs. In addition, our early access educators are currently providing services to 64 children birth through 3. The people on this slide represent our special education support staff. Some of them work directly with students, providing support to our occupational therapists, speech language therapists, and audiologists, while others support building leaders and special education teachers in navigating data and the IEP Achieve system. Our family educator partners work directly with families and school teams to develop and sustain effective partnerships and assist both parties in navigating contentious IEP meetings.
So when we asked your district and building leaders which pieces of the support that they most value in the area of special education, these were the highlights that they indicated were the most impactful services and supports. Some highlights are providing professional learning to all strategists and paraprofessionals on an ongoing basis during your district's PD days. We also provide professional learning to all of your preschool teachers and your extended core teachers. In addition, we have worked with district and building leadership to support the development and implementation of district-wide PLCs, triad meetings, and tiered supports for buildings. You can see that picture there. It's from December's PD Day, where we had 4 of our SLPs from Central Rivers facilitate the first ever all-para training. We got such positive feedback that we've been asked to facilitate February and April's PD as well. So this slide here provides you with an overview, a bigger picture overview of our special education supports. Our team serves 2,230 students with IEPs and conducted over 320 evaluations last year. You just saw the faces of our 996 Central Rivers staff who serve Waterloo in the area of special education, which Dr. Smith amounts to 55.4 FTE. The table on the right-hand side provides you with a breakdown of the number of FTE Waterloo currently receives specific to special education, each special education position. Some services are on call and are provided whenever you need them, such as our family educator partners who come to some contentious IEP meetings to help you mediate, or our social emotional behavioral support team who provides schools with support when they are having trouble with challenging behavior. For these types of positions, if the bill were to pass, districts would have the responsibility to acquire these professionals for consultation and contracting as needed to support outlined in IEPs. You'll also notice that many of the positions require different amounts of FTE. Again, if the bill were to pass, your district would be responsible for hiring of the professionals at those amounts, at those different FTE values for each service the IEP requires. Now that you're a little bit familiar with our special education staff, we're going to talk about our ed services staff. We have 15 content experts who provide education and media services to Waterloo. They function in what we call a care team. They work to ensure a dedicated partnership, seamless care, and a trustworthy experience. When a request comes in from the district, Dana and myself, as the care team coordinators, if you will, work to promptly fulfill the request while considering a number of factors such as skills, knowledge, experience, other work happening in the district, availability, and so on. This allows us to support each request in a personalized, timely manner to the district with someone who has expertise in that area. Again, when we asked your district and building leaders for some highlights of the partnership that we've had this year, some of the things that were mentioned were that we were asked to lead the facilitation of your June admin retreat and the revamping of the district's strategic plan. This resulted in partnering to create a system-wide continuous improvement process and alignment to the district goals of attendance, culture, and achievement. Our literacy consultants not only facilitate letters learning, but they also participate in building level PLCs and provide coaching support to your teachers and coaches. On a monthly basis, our team leads your district coaches in professional learning, coaching labs, coaching cycles, and work elbow to elbow alongside coaches throughout the PLC process. Again, this is a bit of a big picture overview of the services that we provide in the area of educational services. The image on the left provides you with an estimated value of services that Waterloo currently receives from Central Rivers AEA. You can see on the top left-hand side that Waterloo receives about $736,000 in flow-through money for media services and approximately $821,000 for educational services. The revision of this bill indicates that districts will likely get to keep their ed services flow-through dollars if they decide to opt out, but they will not receive the $736,209 flow-through dollars for media services. The graph below represents the personalized supports Waterloo that was provided to Waterloo from Central Rivers AEA just for the first 2 months of school alone. So that graph that says there SS supports, instructional supports, leader and system supports, and learner supports. It shares with you the breakdown of the hours that were provided, the direct hours that were provided for your district up until October 31st. This does not include the planning time or the research, just the direct hours. Waterloo staff participate in AEA course offerings and online trainings. Based on last year's data, they participated in 5,571 hours of courses, and 12,033 online trainings were completed by Waterloo staff. You will see the estimated cost of the district could incur based on those face-to-face or online trainings. This does not, however, include any of the personalized district and building level trainings, such as letters, monthly coach PD, the professional development facilitated by AEA staff on district PD days. Because we value the perspective of those we serve, we'd like you to hear from Brandy Welsh, principal at Fred Becker Elementary, speaking to the value of our services from her experience.
Good evening, board members. I would like to begin by thanking you all for the opportunity to share my thoughts about the future of Central Rivers AEA's involvement in our schools and in the lives of Waterloo families. When I became the principal at Fred Becker Elementary last year, I recognized the importance of having a team of experts to support organizational change. I reached out to CRAEA, and they have enthusiastically supported me and my school through the change process over the last 18 months. Governor Reynolds' initial proposal to reduce the availability of services from the AEA has left many of us wondering about what the future might hold for our schools. The daily work of AEAs is far-reaching, and their care for our students and community is palpable. I would like to acknowledge their work in this message. In doing so, I hope you're able to not only see the importance of their services, but also the positive, lasting impact they have on the lives of families in Waterloo. Nick Stewart, our school psychologist, provides support with IEP writing and evaluation for special education services. He also collaborates with our instructional leadership team for continuous improvement of Becker's MTSS for academics and social emotional and behavioral health. He is currently supporting a graduate student from the University of Northern Iowa as a supervising education professional for a future school psychologist. Sue Nunn, school psychologist, collaborates with our pre-kindergarten team and families to ensure students with disabilities transition successfully into our school. She also supports special education evaluation and IEP development for our youngest students. Amber Darling, our speech-language pathologist from the AEA, provides communication development services for our students. She builds relationships and collaborates with the families and teachers of over 63 students. That's 13% of our enrollment at Becker. She also hosts graduate students from UNI as a supervising education professional, thus ensuring future SLPs receive the training they need before entering the profession. Michaela Montgomery, AEA consultant for school improvement, has been instrumental in helping us develop a strategic plan for supporting social, emotional, behavioral, and mental health learning for staff and students. Dana Miller, school psychologist and AEA employee, has supported our mission, vision, and beliefs work with staff. Her passion for serving all students has helped us focus explicitly on how to create a trauma-responsive school that is prepared to serve all students. Kelsey Bowers, Danielle Hakeman, and Abby Wieland, literacy consultants with AEA, are currently providing professional development for school improvement to teachers and principals. This intensive learning about the science of early literacy development and the evidence-based practices that support accelerated reading growth is vital to the future success of our district and our community. Mackenzie Hakeman, math consultant, provides professional development for our school improvement through collaboration and teaching. Last year's work with Ms. Hakeman resulted in math growth above the state average for our school. And finally, Dana Harskamp and Brenna Huber routinely provide me with knowledge, tools, and collaboration for school improvement planning, as well as leadership coaching for systems change. Countless other people work tirelessly at the AEA to support our community, and I've shared my experience through the lens of the principalship. However, as the mom of a student who has received special education services since he was 3 years old, I can also attest to the support the AEA gives families who we have not yet met. When my family moved to Waterloo in 2019, I was able to work with Kittrell Elementary staff and CRAEA to ensure my child's transition into school was seamless. Since then, I have watched this process unfold for countless other families, and it makes me proud to know that every family, regardless of their knowledge or background, can be the recipient of the same high-quality care and collaboration when their children enter Waterloo schools. In closing, I encourage you to visit our school and talk to the teachers and administrators who collaborate with AEA staff. When you do, you'll find a family of dedicated professionals working tirelessly to provide the best possible education for students in Waterloo. Thank you so much for your time and consideration.
So in addition to our collaboration with building leaders, we also work closely with district leadership. We have Amy Schmidt, Jen Hartman, and Megan Allen here tonight to share their perspective.
Hi, everybody. My name is Amy Schmidt, current Director of Secondary Education for the Waterloo Community School District. And I'm not sure that I could add a lot to what already has been said, but especially when you hear from a Brandy, a current, building principal, I think that's where the voice matters the most, is how it impacts your work within the school. And so I guess I was going to attribute to the partnership that we have had with the AEA, and particularly this year. As a former principal at Hoover, I utilized them consistently to look at MTSS solutions processes and support with that implementation. But as I've had my journey here at the district office, it's been very telling to see them when they go in and work with building teams instructionally and be able to provide that support. It adds an extra layer of a lifeline for building, and I think I've appreciated that more in particular now that I've transitioned out. It might be a little jealous this year, particularly with the work that we've done with our school improvement plans. So that's my contribution to just the partnership, and this, I've been grateful for that over the years as a building leader. And now it'll be more importantly how we utilize those resources as district leadership. So thank you.
Yes. So we welcome any questions.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody can argue with the value of the students provided, services that you provide. But it's my impression that perhaps the improvement in the timeliness and effectiveness of delivery hasn't really been a focus. So, I guess my ideal scenario would be a teacher that has a student that is showing some stress or disinterested. They may be a little despondent. They might even be acting up a little bit. And do you provide, without any paperwork, an opportunity for that teacher to call and say, hey, could you sit in my class tomorrow? Again, not documentation of days and weeks and years, not a student that's in an identified group,
Yep.
but just a student. What do you have to provide for that?
Yeah, thanks for that question. So our team reps, who consist of our school psychologists, school social workers, and special education consultants, all work in your buildings every single day. So as an example, at Fred Becker Elementary, Nick Stewart and Sue Nunn are there every day of the week. And they support all students, not just special education students. So we support any student who may be at risk, or to provide intervention or teacher support, really, right? So we're providing support to the teacher who can support the student. And then we also have some on-demand teams, such as our social emotional behavioral team, where if a teacher is having trouble with a student, they can contact their building contact. In Brandy's case, that would be Nick Stewart, and Nick would give our SCBH team a call, and we would be out there like that.
So you could call one afternoon and they'd be there for you the next day?
That's the plan, yeah. Yes.
I need my green light on. Any more questions from board?
Just a quick one. With the legislation and what's been proposed, do we have any kind of lobbying? Does the AEA have any kind of lobbying or voices speaking for the AEA at the legislature? I mean, of course, we could make calls to people, but there's only so much advocacy that we could do. What's going on inside the AEA to try to fight cutting of services?
Yeah, so our chiefs and our executive directors have been advocating in Des Moines. In fact, our meeting tomorrow that Dr. Smith referenced, our chief will not be able to be there because he will be in Des Moines advocating. Some of the feedback that we've heard from the legislators is that they're hearing from AEA staff. They want to hear from school staff, from parents, and from school boards because they're hearing from AEA staff. Would you add anything to that, Jen or Amy, who've been kind of involved in the advocacy?
The only
The only thing that I would add is that we do have lobbyists for the AEA system that have been down working with legislators and talking to them and trying to encourage them to look at the whole picture and encourage them to come out and see what we do. I think that's been our real concern, is that nobody has come out and talked to us and see what we do. And as you can see by the presentation, we have a lot of staff doing a lot of good work in not only your district, but 52 others across the AEA, and we want them to see that work and know what we do and how we do it. But we do have, yes, advocates and what do they call it? Advocates and our lobbyists. Thank you. I'm sorry, it's getting
Yeah,
late.
it's okay, that's a good answer. And I don't mean to make this meeting longer, but I just asking, when the AEA was developed, was the idea that it would be a place or a division or department where it would be easier to provide services because of scale? You know, taking it out of each individual school and sort of bringing minds together and resources together so we wouldn't have to figure it all out all by ourselves here within, okay.
Yes, that is originally what the intent was that if you lived in Waterloo and you moved to, just take a little town, Garrison, Iowa, which is a small town, you'd get the same service. You'd have the same access to the services and supports provided by the AEA. That was the whole intent behind it. When it first started, there's been a lot of talk about it was intended for special ed. That's not true. In code, it was intended for special ed, media services, and then what they called at the time instructional services. So it was never intended for simply special ed.
Why are we thinking that the legislature wants to cut? Are they do they think they're returning local control to the schools? Do they think that this is not a good use of money? Why do we think that Kim Reynolds is doing this?
We haven't had a really good explanation as to what her thinking is. We've heard all sorts of things, of course, and I'm sure everybody has as far as rumors and things go. But she talks about local control coming back to the districts and then being able to choose how they want to spend those services. However, when she talks about that, everything that you do as far as ed services goes has to be an approved program through DE. So you couldn't just say, I want to use this program because I've researched it, it looks good, I think it would be good for our kids. You'd have to get approval from DE. So if she's talking local control, that's really not what we're seeing in the outcome.
Okay. And finally, it's your opinion and all of your opinion that if this legislation passes, things are going to get worse for our kids here in Iowa?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
One of the services listed is evidence-based math instruction. What does that mean? What does that look like?
Yeah, so we have a team of math consultants. Mackenzie Hickman was one that Brandy shared in the video, and they stay abreast of the latest research, making sure that we are using high leverage math practices, evidence-based math practices. Some of the work that looks like in Waterloo is we work directly with the math coaches in Waterloo, providing them PD around those high leverage practices. And then we also provide math support to building teams or PLC teams when they are digging into their math data. So those are some ways that we utilize our math consultants. Anything?
Is teaching of math facts, is that a good practice?
I'm gonna pass it to Jen, who's our Educational Services Director. I'm not a math consultant.
I'd be happy to help. Thanks for the question. It absolutely is important for students to have fluency in mathematics.
Yeah, I didn't say fluency, I said math facts.
Yep.
The old-fashioned way, time test.
Yeah. So the evidence-based practice is just doing the drills of those time tests that I know I took with my little stickers across the chart. Isn't as effective as building fluency through a variety of practices, which also include understanding like patterns and how those numbers sense is developed.
But there is recent research that says that is valuable.
The latest research around the mathematics is one that we have to consider both sides of. And even our Department of Education doesn't support the movement toward the science of mathematics, which is kind of how it's been termed, because it hasn't developed that well-rounded understanding of mathematical concepts. So I understand the research that you're pulling from. That's one of the things that we do at the AEAs. We stay on top of those things, and before we roll them out, we make sure we understand all the sides to that issue.
Thank you.
I'll just say that, the AEA models were very, I guess, foreign to me. I come from out of state. When we moved here, didn't really have to be honest, didn't know it existed until I had a child that needed those services at a very early age, before he was even, me and my wife were struggling with one of our children's development, first child, and pediatrician said, he needs help early. Like early, most of this thing, when we grew up, you didn't get anything until you got to school at best, and we were amazed at the early AEA service that came in and helped do a lot of good things for him the whole way through, and have done other support. So, and I am, as a parent, very appreciative of those. I sit there and look at the names. I can sit there and look at, I saw a young lady who was the first one working with him, still at her Jessa Edison now. She was Jessa Patterson back here, and Jessa came to our house once a week helping him with development. She was just getting into the program, and a lot of familiar faces there. So, I do appreciate the services and stuff that my family's been fortunate to have with the AA, and a lot of things that really helped take a kid that was at one time deemed that would never be in a regular classroom to getting a 2-year college degree. So there's a lot of successes, and those successes take a lot of support in the buildings and outside buildings and with the extra group. So thank you for the services you do have and have provided. So.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that story. Our early access providers who provide that early intervention are pretty crucial, but they are one of the many services that many people don't know we offer. So, yeah, I appreciate that story.
Anything else? I can piggyback off what Jesse said. Having a son that utilized the services of AEA, I appreciated it as well. We appreciate all the information that you shared with us this evening as well. It was very helpful. And then the meeting tomorrow, so hopefully it goes well and they get some good insight as well. I also want to say thanks to Dennis and Brian for your service as well. We appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pastor, thank you for letting us serve you. I've used the same services that you've used. So my children have benefited from the AEA, and that's why I'm here. That's why I serve, because I've used those services, and when they asked me to serve, I said yes.
I was going to say, I'll add, and Mr. Smith knows a little bit about my kids, because one time when my son made poor choices, he helped peel me off the ceiling. But the partnership with the Waterloo schools and the AA for our daughter, who was 3 when she first got services, had the seeds of occupational therapy, of opening and closing Tupperware containers in middle school. Now she's 25, and she can go and get a horse out of a pen, tack it herself, the saddle and everything, and gets on it. And I mean, it took some years, but she is at that level thanks to the partnership.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next item on our agenda is information from individuals and delegations. This is the opportunity where those who wish to address the school board may do so. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. Ms. Arndorfer will hold up a yellow card when you have 30 seconds remaining, and a red card when your time has expired. At this time, I will ask you to conclude your public remarks. Please also keep your comments respectful and constructive. We're all here with the goal of trying to help our students. Please also avoid criticizing the job performance of specific employees of the school district. Personnel matters are confidential and must be handled through proper channels and not in a public forum. Finally, we provide this as an opportunity for public comments, but it is generally not a back and forth discussion, especially of items that are not on the agenda. At times, we'll try to help if we can with information before or after the meeting, but we have to proceed with our board meeting agenda items. With that being said, I invite anyone who wishes to address the board to please come forward and start by stating your name and your home address, and I believe she made sure the green light was on.
My name is Ted Lederman. I live at 1758 Pinehurst Lane, Waterloo, Iowa. I graduated from West Waterloo in 1963, and one of my classmates was Sandy Smith, who said to say hello to Superintendent Smith. I returned to Waterloo in 1976, and I've lived here since. I was concerned about the plan for a new high school. On November 25th, Superintendent Smith was on the Steele Report telling the plan of having a new high school that would cost about $165 million. The reason Superintendent Smith said this was being done is because due to open enrollment, hundreds of students were leaving Waterloo school system each year, about 700. And what he wanted was a new facility and programs to attract students back to Waterloo. What he failed to say is why are students leaving Waterloo? Why are parents and guardians going to Hudson, like people I know, or Cedar Falls, to get an education for their children? Well, just as college athletics are ranked throughout the nation, and Iowa women's basketball is rated number 2, the school systems are rated throughout the nation. There's 2 rating groups that I know of. One is niche, and the other is School Digger. In the most recent ratings of the high schools in the state, and there's 336 high schools, Cedar Falls, based on which group you use, rates number 28 or number 48. Hudson rates number 24. Grundy rates number 36. Gilbert rates number 9. Waterloo West High rates 263 out of 336. East Waterloo High rates 318 out of 336. Clearly, the Waterloo school system is not doing a very good job. The administration, the teachers, and the students, they have to improve on the mission statement that you stated for the Waterloo school system. Secondly, the fact that Mr. Smith was speaking and saying this would be done without a bond. In other words, they were going to take 1% tax that is contributed to the city for education and fund it through there. I wonder how this will be, because we have school bonds coming due, 7/1/25 of $16 million, 7/1/28 of $32 million, and 7/1/29 of $15 million that the Waterloo school system owes and will have to pay. So I'd like to know, number one, what the school system is doing to improve the teaching of the students before we build a new school, because people are not saying we want to move to have a new school. And I want to know from Mr. Smith.
Mr. Lederman, can you wrap up your comments?
Yes, I want to know from Mr. Smith how this is going to be funded without a school bond vote. And I want to know if this will be looked at by independent accountants to know that this can be done. And we don't end up with a basement and then have to have a bond drive to pay for a building on top of a basement. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Todd Oberdahl, 124 Amity Drive. At the last school board meeting, we had the topic of the new school came out, and I have no opinion on whether or not this school should be built. I haven't seen the plans for it. I haven't done that much research on it. But one of the things I'm continuing to be shocked by, and was shocked by what happened at that meeting, is this idea that we're not going to have the citizens vote on this. We received a $125,000 donation, and that was great. And we heard that number, $125,000 tonight. But when we were asked how much the architects were going to cost, we got a percentage. This is what usually it is for this amount, but we're going to give you a discount on this, and we're going to need 15% to 20% up front by March. Nobody up here said, how much is this? Nobody up here that's in charge of education, nobody's up here in charge of math and doing mathing, whether it's the old way or the new way. Nobody asked the question how much that was. That figure was about $2 million. $2 million could pay for all those names that were up there on the screen for a couple years. $2 million, oh, we'll just go ahead and do it. But nobody would say $2 million. The save money goes to pay down bonds, it goes to tax relief, in order for things to continue. We just had a list of the number of bonds that are coming through. This project at $165 million is going to add to the debt. It's going to be about $8 million a year in interest. And if our revenue stream is $13 million a year, that's $5 million a year that's going to principal. Over 30 years, that's $150 million. So after 30 years of spending $390 million, we are still going to be $15 million short. And you are saying that the people don't need to vote on this. I don't think the state is signing a promissory note for 30 years. They're not co-signing this. Any bonds, any indebtedness is going to the people that live here. And it is their property that is going to be held in lien. You do not have the authority to put the city, to put the community, the school district in this kind of debt on the property that they own without their approval. You simply do not. This is increasing the indebtedness of the community school district. And when these other bills come due, then we're going to come around and say, well, we need to have these bonds to pay off these things because we've already started the school. But you must get the community to okay this. My question that I would like answered by someone before I leave tonight, whether it is an open forum or out in this hallway, I would like to know who in legal retention, as an official legal opinion of the Waterloo Community School Board, has told this body that an election to authorize bonds to build the school is not required. I want to know who that is, who is saying that this is state law. Because I'm standing up here and saying that it's not, and if you continue to go forward with this, it will be these members that are responsible for the expenses that come about it. It will come out of the bonds that you hold, and then it will come out of, you'll be personally liable for it. The taxpayers do not have their money taken away just because y'all decide you want to put us in debt for $165 million. I thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Oberdahl, the last comment you mentioned, can you please, if possible, shoot an email? The board members, our emails are listed. Can you please put that information in an email, the request that you have?
Can I not get it tonight?
No.
It's not, there's no public record of a legal opinion that protects this board.
If you have a concern and you want us to reply to you, can you please put that information in an email, and then we'll get back to you.
So the answer is there is not.
Thank you, Mr. Oberdahl.
I asked for it tonight. If you can't deliver it to me tonight, I'll just assume it's not there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Superintendent Smith, I'd like you to explain the financing.
That's not part of the, you had an opportunity to speak. If you have a question, you can put it in the email form, and then we'll get back to you.
Well, this is incumbent.
Thank you.
Because you're planning a new school. How is it going to be financed? That's an easy question.
That item is not on the agenda, so if you put it in the email form and send it to us, we'll get back to you. Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to address the board this evening? Seeing no others, we'll move on with the consent agenda. Tonight, our consent agenda consists of 3 items: the approval of the December 11th, 2023 regular board meeting and December 12th, 2023 special board meeting, the personnel appointments and adjustments, and bills due and payable, and bills paid between board meetings. Are there any items that board members would like to be removed this evening? None? Okay. All right, can I get a motion to put those items on the table?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carried. And that brings us to our next agenda item. Agenda 11 is be a bid approval for the Education Service Center ESC HVAC system upgrade. And I believe we have Zach Kelly and Jake Connor with Modus Engineering. If you can come up, please, and I'll get the recommendation on the table.
Why don't you guys call each other and decide what the uniform is tonight?
Jake with State Farm.
The superintendent's recommendation is that the Board of Education accept the recommendation from Modus Engineering and approve the Education Service Center ESC HVAC system upgrade bid as outlined for a total contract cost of $1,479,380, which includes both the base and alternate bids.
So moved.
Second.
And now discussion.
Yep, good evening, everyone. Just a quick or kind of just go over this whole project. So this building was built in 1964, so this existing air handler has been original to the building. The boiler has been updated along with a chiller that does the air conditioning for the building, but the efficiency of this building has been kind of a poor design. We unfortunately have to run the building 24/7 during heating or cooling season just to maintain temperatures throughout the building. We've experienced just the airflow as the biggest issue of providing throughout the whole building. Kind of some sections, this is one of them, it's a little cooler than it normally is typically. So this would just involve a new air handler system, VAV boxes, which help distribute throughout certain locations with zoning, and then ductwork. It also includes some demolition of ceiling grid, just due to the scope of it. It's more efficient to take down ceiling grid than to try to repurpose it and salvage it. That's kind of the overall scheme of it, and I can let Jake speak to anything else.
What's the scope of the alternate?
Yeah, so, good question. So the alternate is replacing the piping that provides steam and the piping for the chiller that does the air conditioning. That all comes from Central Stores, which is right behind me here in the other building. That's where the boiler and chiller are located. And a lot of that piping isn't in the best of shape. We've had quite a few repairs on the steam side of it, just due to the age of it. So that pipe, that would just include the replacement of that piping from Central Stores into the mechanical room where it ties into the air handler.
And that's through an underground tunnel?
Correct.
Jake, I know there were several mechanicals, I think, did this, but only one general. And
Yep, that's correct, Lyle.
usually we like to have more than one general bid. Comparing other projects, is this a competitive bid or does it seem a little high?
Yeah, it was actually pretty close to our estimate. One reason that it was a little higher than our estimate was due to some of the scope that we encountered in getting the plans and everything put together. As you know, you put together an estimate, you do the design, and there are some things that you come across that you may not have anticipated. So I was pretty satisfied with the numbers. And to your question on the multiple bids, so we sent it out with the intent that it was a mechanical prime bid, which would have gotten the mechanical contractor as the one turning the bid into the school district. What we ended up with was a single bid from a general contractor, of which who got multiple bids from mechanicals below them. So because of the interest from the general construction contractors was not as high as the mechanicals, we got a single bid. But through the mechanical contractors and the equipment, there was still good competitiveness to the project.
So if you sent it out to mechanicals, you weren't expecting the non-mechanical items to be bid separately, or what was the work?
In a prime contract, they would have put the general construction underneath them, just like vice versa. A general contractor would have the HVAC underneath them. So from a contract standpoint, anybody could be the general contractor, really.
So did you open those bids? The mechanical?
So we just got, it was one bid package. So there was one bid that was turned in, but underneath that had multiple bids.
So no mechanic, even though it was a prime mechanical, no mechanical bid it?
Correct. Not directly.
Isn't that a surprise?
Not necessarily. As soon as the low general construction contractor elected to bid prime, then they wouldn't basically give a bid to mechanical contractors because they want to be prime. So when they did that, it kind of drove the project to a GC as prime. Does that make sense?
So I guess what I'm hearing is there was no mechanical contractor that was able to get an accompanying bid for the non-mechanical.
Correct, yes.
What can we do differently in the future to avoid that?
That's a good question. I think it really came down to project schedule and just the contractors in the area as far as GCs go. It didn't work real well with their schedule, and so I think timing is probably the biggest thing that we ran into.
So are you talking about providing more lead time, or are you talking about the time frame window in which the project has to be done?
Probably more the time frame that it has to be done in the summer.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any more questions?
So, Lyle, I just want to make sure, so there was just one bid?
There was one bid that actually got turned in an envelope, but underneath that bid was multiple bids to that general contractor. So the scope included probably roughly 60% or more mechanical work. And so those multiple bids were on the mechanical scope, if that makes sense. And then through the way the equipment was procured, through the pre-purchase, it has bidding associated with that as well. So there's competitiveness to that part as well.
But do you think the pre-purchase caused any bidders to not bid?
I don't believe so, no.
Okay. Is it going to be here? Is the are the units on schedule? Are they going to be here in time
I have not heard an update since they were released, but
Yeah, I did check in with Tom Peters from Train, and everything is on schedule as planned.
Okay.
Any more questions? So all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carried. Thank you, Jake and Zach.
Thank you, everyone.
The next item on the agenda is the item 12, the funding for 2024-2025 at-risk education programs. And the superintendent's recommendation is that the Board of Education authorize the district's administration to submit a request to the School Budget Review Committee, SBRC, in the amount of $4,096,826 for modified supplemental amount MSA for the purpose of funding district at-risk programming for the 2024-25 school year.
So moved.
Second?
A second. And now for discussion, and we have our own Jeff Summerfield, our CFO, and Jen Hartman, Director of Elementary Education, for questions.
So I just want to point out, this is a request that we bring to the board every year annually. It's an application, as you said, to the SBRC for additional modified supplemental amount that supports all of our at-risk programs. The programs are individually listed in the board exhibit, and this is not new funding or new programs. Again, it's something that we bring to you every year. It just requires annual renewal. So as you already kind of mentioned, we are requesting $4,096,000 of at-risk funding. In addition to that amount, the district must make a 25% matching from our regular general fund. This brings the total of our budget to $5,462,000. We'll also, in addition to that, get approximately $576,000 of at-risk program funding from the amount that's calculated on our aid and levy worksheet in April. The property tax related to this is going to be about $1.44 this year for the $4,096,000. By comparison, for last school year, the at-risk request was for $3,955,000 and was supported by $1.39 of property tax. So the dollar amount went up slightly based on the formula that comes from the Department of Ed and Department of Management, and the dollar amount goes up slightly as well. And Jen, if you do have specific questions, Jen Hartman is here to answer questions about the programs.
SRO officers, how much of their salary is funded from this modified?
How much of my salary?
No, the SRO.
SROs. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't.
No. SRO officers. That's in the list there.
Well,
I don't know the exact number. I can get that for you. I don't have a breakdown of the exact number of SROs.
Obviously, 25% is not, and then a portion of it is from the city, but, right?
We pay, our SRO officers are paid fully out of this funding, if that's what you're asking.
Okay.
By combining the two previous programs, is there an overall change in scope of what this covers versus last year?
No, I mean, Jeff really has the financial piece of it, but really none of our programs have really changed at all. This is just a part of what we do every year.
So they just combine?
Yeah, and that change actually happened a couple years ago.
Can you talk a little bit about some of the programs that this is affected by?
Sure. So all of our PBIS work, so our positive behaviors, anything that we have that deals with student behavior, at-risk students. So for example, we also partner with our, with the state. We get some state dollars for at-risk programming at the elementary level. We also have our family support workers, our behavior support specialists that would help fall under this. At the elementary level, we have something called FLASH, and actually Jen Willen referred to that a little bit today in talking with her. She calls it Bubble Up, but we would be looking at programming to assist kids before or after school that maybe need some extra support as well.
How much of Expo is funded out of this? I see it listed, but is that its entirety, or is it?
Well, all of Expo Alternative High School is funded out of it.
Okay, so
Except
entire-
a small amount for like special ed or some things like that, title funds. And then within East High and West High, there are different programs that are supported.
PBDA.
Yeah, yeah.
So, just something to think about how that would be impacted, with future changes, the Expo funding, so. Does that change, model change for high school? Yeah,
Depends on how it's defined, I guess.
yeah.
So what's the definition under which Expo falls?
I'm not sure of that. We can find that out for you. My guess would be under that alternative school setting, but I don't know that for a fact, Lyle.
Just piggyback on what Jesse was
Yeah.
asking. If changes in structure end up changing this, we probably need to at least be aware of it.
Right. And I think, just to my knowledge, we'd probably be able to still continue to use those dollars, would be my guess, because we're still serving kids with at-risk programming, whether it's combined now with our other programming.
But,
But yes, good to
Sometimes.
check up.
Might be good to, or to stay so. separate in the paper.
Anything else? Any other questions? All those in favor of approving?
Aye.
Aye. Chair votes aye, motion carried. All right, that brings us to our superintendent's report, though that's the end of our action items. So I'll turn it over to Dr. Jared Smith.
Okay. I've been checking my phone. We're in a winter weather advisory, which is again, yep. So my just comment was thanks to the parents, the students, the staff for just adjusting. We've had the last 2 weeks have been kind of crazy in terms of missing school. We've been adapting well. We've been communicating well. Just super proud of our community for handling that. Also wanted to thank the board for supporting. Last week we had our first 2-hour early dismissal. Not due to weather, due to us giving back a little bit of time to our staff. That has gone over really, really well with our staff. I know it was an outside the box thinking. So I just appreciate the support there for making that work. I heard we had a report from Jen, who was in contact with our elementary schools. There was no issues in terms of getting kids home those days. So that was good. And in case you're wondering, we're still okay with our hours right now. So we look at hours to make sure we meet the 1080 requirement throughout the course of the year. Even though we have missed a few days, this week we'll be announcing, I'm not breaking any news here because everybody knows, but we have 2 makeup days, snow days, that we're going to be using here during second semester to kind of make up some of those hours. So some people are wondering, hey, are we going to go further into the summer? As of right now, we're okay in terms of those hours. We got about 10 extra hours built up. So we'll see. We're still early in the winter season, knock on wood here, but I think we're doing good. And again, just appreciate all the communication we have from our safety team, from our transportation. We're making it work. So feeling good.
All right, thank you, Dr. Smith. Tonight we'll start to my left, Director Knight.
Thank you. Well, I've kind of mentioned this at our last board meeting, but weather kind of prevented us from having it. But first, just offer my thoughts and prayers to the families, Perry School District. Everything they have had to go through, very, very sad. And I would continue my application that we do more for bring more SROs into our facilities. I'm a true believer that we should, every one of our buildings should have SRO there 100% of the time, and look at ways to fund that. We're obviously looking at SRO officers here. I believe that there's a cost associated, but if we the thought of like the Perry District, that a kid or a staff member didn't go home, to me it's worth the investment. So, and just appreciation to the SROs we do have in buildings, and hope maybe we can grow that program for us. So,
Thank you, Director Knight. Director Schmidt.
Yes, last week, Zach and I went to a meeting. We were invited by Rich Kirkenbach, big supporter of career education. I think many of you know him. Meeting was at the Labor Temple. Presentation was by a person at the University of Iowa on all the incentives for different types of energy. And what I didn't know is, right now, you can get up to 50%, including, it's a tax rebate, but it's refundable, which means like a school district that doesn't pay tax gets refunded that same 50%. And we were interested, or I was interested at least, in looking at it not so much as energy generation, but doing some solar as part of the sustainable construction program at the Career Center to give kids a hand-on experience of day-to-day. Look at their cell phone. How much are we generating right now with this sun, whatever it is. So that was pretty interesting. We'll follow up on that. But the incentives are a little more than I thought, and I wasn't sure whether they applied to non-tax-paying bodies, but they did. So that was interesting. Thank you.
Thanks, Director Schmidt. Director Cox.
Well, since I am definitely new, I'm trying to understand this particular moment now. But from what I've gathered this past week, definitely I make it a priority to make sure I reach out to our middle school kids of going to their basketball games. So this past week, went and watched, and one thing I was impressed with is our coaches. I was impressed with our coaches on how they handle the kids. The one game was Carver and Pete, I think it was. And they had a lot of kids, but the coaches did a good job on making sure everyone plays. It was good to see and to be part of from that standpoint. From other than that, I'm going to learn how to do this.
It's more so just your thoughts and things that you want the community to know. But so anything you can think of. Yep. But you did a good job, though.
This is going to be a lot longer next week.
Yeah. Director Matlock.
Thank you. I would like to go along with Director Knight, and my thoughts and prayers are definitely with Prairie, the community, and the district. And I also appreciate when I sent Jared a text message, Dr. Smith a text message. I heard it up at Wartburg, and I was like, oh, and I was so excited that to know that they were already on it, and he was already working with the district team leaders to make sure that things were taken care of here in Waterloo. Director Cox and I have started our onboarding process, and we had the opportunity with Emily last week, and I appreciate the time that she spent. I'm looking forward to the other onboarding meetings that we have coming up here soon. I would just like to encourage people to come to the town hall meetings. We have one down, 3 more to go, and I'm sure the dates are listed, and they'll be coming up soon. There's one on Thursday at the Career Center, and some more to come. If you can't make it, also remember that we are here. You have our emails that was mentioned earlier before. Just make sure you reach out to us with questions. And I'm also looking forward to visiting schools. It was great to hear from Poynter and Orange today to find out the exciting things that they are doing, and I'm looking forward to going to school to find out what other things are doing. So I'm still in the learning process, but I'm definitely enjoying this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Matlock. Director Ewing.
Schools in America are an incredibly complex and difficult thing to manage because of, some of it is law in America, and that it's free to file a lawsuit. And so we've gotten to a place where health and safety has to be perfect, and where our community asks more and more and more and more and more of schools. And the more that I am a part of this board, the more proud I am of how Waterloo steps up and is on the forefront of many of these issues, and health and safety, and taking care of each other and our kids. And I'm just really proud of the work that we do here.
Thank you, Director Ewing. I want to like to echo those comments. Our thoughts and prayers are with the Perry community in their season of tragedy. I do want to say thank you to all the individuals that came and spoke today. First, the principals of Pointer and Orange, Jim Willand and Sonny Hart, the students that came from Orange, just to explain some of the important things that they're doing within their school buildings and within their community. We always appreciate hearing from those that are on the ground level and just giving us information that we can be proud of. So again, thank you to those two schools and those administrators that lead those buildings. To the two gentlemen that spoke today, we appreciate you as well. If you have any other information that you would like us to know, our emails are listed. If not, Board Secretary Pam Arndorfer can get that information out to you. Couple of dates I'm gonna throw out there. Thank you, Director Matlock. We did wind down our first town hall meeting, which was last Saturday, January 20th at Kittrell Elementary. So thank all those who attended that. Our next town hall meeting will be this Thursday, January 25th, 5 p.m. at the Waterloo Career Center. And then we have one Saturday, January 27th at 9 a.m. at Pointer Elementary School in Evansdale. And to round out our town hall meetings, we'll have one Thursday, February 1st, 5 p.m. at Dr. Walter Cunningham School for Excellence. Also, we have upcoming on Thursday, January 25th, the postponed East-West girls basketball game will be at West High. Start time is 5 p.m. for JV and 6:30 for the varsity game. The East-West girls basketball game scheduled for February 3rd. Girls start at 1 p.m. and boys to follow at 2:30 p.m. And then our next board meeting will be in this space on February 12th at 5 p.m. I think that's all I have. Thank you for sticking with us. I see Janelle's ready. So could I get a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carried.
That was a good bang there, buddy.
Thank you. My bang this morning, my bang earlier wasn't that good.